My name is Jason. I'm with Total HIPAA Compliance. So let's see, I've spoken about encrypting texts, risk analysis versus risk assessment, and now we're getting into penalties and fines. This is where it gets ugly, people. Before we get into this, I want to remind you that September 23rd, 2013 is the compliance deadline with the new HIPAA omnibus ruling for all covered entities, business associates, and business associate subcontractors. Let's start with civil fines for non-compliance with HIPAA. So here's a chart that breaks down the penalties and fines that HHS can levy. So let's talk about this nice little chart and what it can mean to you. HHS has defined 4 different levels of penalties. The first level is you didn't know. This is when you didn't know or couldn't have reasonably known and you had a violation. The fines for this range anywhere from $100 to $50,000 per violation, capped at $1.5 million per calendar year. Type 2 is reasonable cause, and that means someone was trying to be compliant, yet they still had a violation. Fines for this range from $1,000 to $50,000 per violation, with a cap of $1.5 million per calendar year. Type 3 is willful neglect, but timely corrected. This is when you decided you were just going to ignore HIPAA, but you got caught. You must correct this violation within 30 days. The fines for this range anywhere from $10,000 to $50,000 with a cap of $1.5 million per calendar year. And type 4 is willful neglect not corrected. This is when you ignored the law, you got caught, and you chose not to do anything about it. The fines for this are $50,000 per violation with a cap of $1.5 million per calendar year. Here's the kicker. The cap of $1.5 million on violations in a calendar year is not a maximum for all HIPAA fines, but only applies to identical violations. For example, if you had a disclosure of 500 people's PHI, that specific breach would be considered one type of violation and capped at $1.5 million. But if HHS found other violations, they could fine you for those, and theoretically your fines can be more than $1.5 million. There are no set limits on the number of fines that HHS can levy against an agency or subcontractor for multiple violations. A good example of this is the WellPoint fines that were just passed down. They were fined $1.7 million for all their transgressions. They had multiple violations, and it was found out that they had not implemented adequate policies and procedures for authorizing access to the online application database, performed an appropriate technical evaluation in response to a software upgrade to its information systems, and they hadn't put in technical safeguards to verify the person or entity seeking access to electronic protected health information that was maintained in its application database. All of this left the EPHI of over 612,000 individuals accessible to unauthorized individuals over the internet. We're going to put a link in there so you can see what HHS had to say about it. Okay, now we've covered the civil penalties. Let's talk about the criminal penalties. There are 3 categories of criminal penalties which apply predominantly to individuals. They are as follows. 1. Knowingly obtaining or disclosing PHI is a fine of up to $50,000 and or imprisonment for up to 1 year. 2. Offenses committed under false pretenses. An example is if an individual obtains someone else's PHI and goes to a financial institution and represents that they are that person. They can be fined up to $100,000 and or imprisoned for 5 years. 3 is offenses committed with the intent to sell, transfer, or use the PHI for commercial advantage, personal gain, or malicious harm. This is subject to a fine up to $250,000 and or 10 years in prison. In addition to all these fines, the person whose information was released, stolen, and or misused may be entitled to some of the money from the civil fines. This means your clients or patients might be the ones calling in HHS or OCR to report a violation. The long and the short of it is, there are some serious fines that are being passed down, and you can't ignore HIPAA. This quote is directly from HHS. Beginning September 23, 2013, liability for many of HIPAA's requirements will extend directly to business associates that receive or store protected health information, such as contractors and subcontractors. So, PHI is your responsibility, and you shouldn't take it lightly. Okay, this week's question. Remember, I'm not a lawyer, and I don't play one on YouTube. This isn't legal advice, nor should it be construed as such. Do you have preset policy and procedures available for an individual agent as well as an agency so we can modify them to have a policy on file? Yes. At Total HIPAA, we have both security and privacy policies and procedures for agencies in our compliance materials. The extra added bonus is our agency privacy policy and procedures include Gramm-Leach-Bliley language and are designed to cover the employees of the agency. I want to remind you also, coming up on August 12th, 2013, we will have policies and procedures for employers, and starting August 19th for business associate subcontractors. Each set of policies and procedures are designed to be specifically oriented for your needs as an agency, employer, or business associate subcontractor. The beautiful thing is they all come in Word format so you can customize them for your company. Thanks again for stopping by. My name again is Jason. I'm with Total HIPAA Compliance. Hope you have a great day.